We are at Thursday, March 26th, Budget Committee meeting, our fifth meeting of what we now have a quorum, of very possibly, I'm going to just basically say a sixth meeting for a final vote. And we'll do one more confirmation before we leave that, making sure or hoping that everybody can join that. So, after calling to our order, what we will accomplish tonight, I'm gonna put my reading glasses on so I can read it better. So we're gonna start off with giving anybody that wants to do public comment a chance to do that in just a minute. We're gonna hear from and vote on the community services, I should say. We'll review general government. And vote there, and debt, capital, and contingencies, and go over revenues. And then we reserved what we'll see, what percentage and what portion of the meeting to start to look through the budget committee recommendations and potential revisions and discussions that we want to have from the feedback. And I appreciate feedback that came my way, and it isn't that we're not limited to that. That just kind of is put together as a guide. So we'll have a chance to do that, and then we will, assess where we are and continue. So I'll open it for public comment if anybody's here. I have to. And I won't be staring at anybody. Yeah. Can you do public comment online? That's a good. I don't know. I was just curious. Zoom in. Okay, so no one online. Okay, I know. We're moving on. Okay, so for community service, we are going to start with the Camden Garden Club. Come on up. And if you prefer, you can sit next to Audra, and she's got a microphone over there. We got two here. And this is tab 6, page 22.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to present our club to you. Just a little background. We're quite large. We have about 100 members now, and we focus our resources and our time in the town of Camden mostly. An important part of the club, I just want to stress this, is our strong partnership that we have with the town, and we really value that and appreciate it. We buy, plant, and maintain 13 gardens here in Camden, 48 lamppost baskets of flowers, and over 3,000 bulbs, annuals, and plants. The club pays to have all of this watered, so we have a watering contract that's actually $6,500 that we pay every summer. In addition, we also provide 96 wreaths to be placed on the lampposts during the holiday season. In addition to planting and doing the gardening, we also are real strong in education, and we provide free education opportunities to our community through our winter horticulture series, and also our club meetings are open to everyone and they're free, and we have a speaker at every club meeting. We also provide master gardeners at our tour at the homes for additional information. And we try to give scholarships each year to our students in this area. So as you can tell, this costs a lot to do all of this, and the grant would certainly help us continue to provide flowers and hopefully continue to beautify Camden, which is part of our goal, and provide education also.
Any questions? And just from a process perspective, I think it'd be great if we could, what we'll do is we'll ask any questions we have, and then we'll go through and hear from each of the committees before we do a final vote on that budget. But are there any questions? Yeah, just an appreciation.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we've got.
can leave it. Thank you.
Okay, Camden Rockport Historical Society. Is anyone online for? No? Okay. Okay, we're gonna pause for a second just to, you want to,
I'm just
thank
gonna
you so much.
text someone to ask if anybody's gonna show up, but you can.
Okay,
probably go to
we'll
the
keep going.
next-
Okay.
I know Abby's here and.
We'll move on
John's
to,
here.
yep, Mary Spring. Nope,
Hello, everybody.
Oh.
I presume you can hear me okay.
go ahead.
My name is John Fromer. I've got a statement I'd just like to read to you. I am the program director at Mary Spring Nature Center and a trustee. I would like to thank the town of Camden for all the support you've given us over the years. I would also like to thank this committee for considering our request for $1,000 again this year. That amount may be a small portion of our annual budget, but when you're a nonprofit, every dollar counts. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Mary Spring, but let me highlight a few things about the Nature Center. Mary Spring's mission is to practice, teach, and advocate sound principles of ecology, conservation, and horticulture in order to protect our natural environment and to provide natural landscapes and cultivated areas for public enjoyment. Mary Spring, founded in 1974 as a nature sanctuary by Mary Ellen Ross, is located at the end of Conway Road, just past the back entrance to the Camden Rockport Historical Society. Mary Spring has 66 acres of woodland trails, a vernal pool, an arboretum, open meadows, a greenhouse, and beautiful cultivated gardens. Mary Spring is open to the public free of charge every day of the year. Our trails are also now on a live Google map, and as you walk around, the little blue dot follows you, and you can tap on pins to get information about places where you are. Mary Spring sponsors up to 80 environmental education programs for children and adults. These include our weekly series of Tuesday talks, several weekend workshops, lots of free family events, and 2 weeks of summer ecology camps for children. In 2025, I worked with approximately 1,400 students hiking, observing, and doing experiments in nature. In addition, through our community outreach efforts, we provide guided tours and other programs for children from area schools and youth organizations, and we even take Mary Spring to them for more nature learning opportunities. Mary Spring has about 500 members, families, individuals, and businesses, including about 200 from Camden. We continue to hold our weekly Tuesday Talk series via Teams for free during the winter and spring seasons, switching to outdoor sessions near our gardens in the spring and summer with a nominal fee. We do all of this with just 3 employees, our managing director, Tony Goodrich, our part-time garden manager, Denise DeSpirito, and myself, and a dedicated core of volunteers and trustees. We estimate that we receive about 12,000 visits per year to Mary Spring, many of them from Camden residents and summertime visitors to our community. Mary Spring continues to remain open every day of the year, dawn to dusk, free of charge, offering everyone a chance to enjoy the outdoors. This resource is an especially important one for local schools and youth organizations. The children coming to Mary Spring enjoy the nature hikes, outdoor programs, and fresh air. We hope you will come to Mary Spring Nature Center too, and we thank you again for your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions or?
What a great facility in Camden.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, another great facility.
Oh, thank you very kindly.
How many times is the space rented for parties and stuff? I was just out of curiosity. It does not exact. I was just curious how much it's utilized.
Sure. I would say, and I don't have the records in front of me, but we probably have on average, perhaps, and COVID not included, 6 to 7 weddings, maybe 8 weddings a summer. And then there are people that have small memorial services or maybe a family party. So it's not heavily reserved. And But people do enjoy it, and the height of the season with the gardens, it's especially beautiful.
Great. Yeah, I was just curious. Thanks.
Sure.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
So Camden Rockport Historical, no, we did that, okay. And then McGonagall Watershed. Oh, you're here from Marysville?
That's okay.
Okay, hi. You said Abby's up there.
Hi, yes,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yes, you're all set.
Okay, great, thank you. So, this proposal is very similar to ones we've done in the past year, so I won't go into all the details. But we're asking for about $200 more this year than we have in the last couple of years, and mostly that is due to the increased costs of the water testing that we're doing. So primarily the work that we're doing in Camden is the bacteria level testing at all of the swimming sites in Camden that we do every week from June through September. That's where we're seeing cost increase at the lab in Rockland. And we also are employing an active lake patrol on McGonagall May through November that serves not only as a little bit of enforcement, but more as a courtesy to help people, to tow people, to give people information. Last year, our lake patrol spent a lot of time picking up litter at the park areas around the lake. So that's partly the courtesy lake patrol. And then the other big cost that we have, and the thing that we're doing that I think helps Camden a lot, is we place and maintain and reorder all the navigational buoys that are on Lake McGonagall and Norton Pond. And that's an expensive and big project that we do every year. We also are carrying out all the Lake Smart surveys, helping waterfront owners throughout the watershed to better maintain their properties for runoff and pollution into the lake. And we're hiring the courtesy boat inspectors at Bog Bridge and Route 52 boat launches all summer long to check and monitor for invasive plants, which are a huge threat right now to the river and the lake and the ponds. So those are most of our activities that sort of affect or impact, I should say, the town of Camden. And like I said, this year we're asking for a little bit more because we're seeing cost increases not only in the buoys, but also in all the bacteria testing that we're doing. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Any questions or?
It's not about, it's just, do other towns also that have, like Lincolnville, Hope, do they help? Do you ask for money from them as well?
Yes, we do. We ask for money from Lincolnville because they're the watershed does encompass Hope and Searsmont, but very small. So Lincolnville is the other town that contributes to our budget as well.
I'm just looking around the room. Any other questions, or we appreciate, Marina's
Thank
calling.
you for what you're doing. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be able to do it. It's such an incredible resource.
Yep, Barb, we just gotta put your mic on. You have your mic on,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise I can't tell you.
I propose we accept the town manager's number of $20,200 for community projects.
Second.
In a second, any comments? Okay, all in favor? That is everybody. We're all in the room this time. I'm proud, I'm so glad. Okay, so, yep, that all has passed, so I appreciate, all the work you do.
Thank you
So
again.
much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so general government. So we're gonna go tab 3, page 6. Yeah, and the only thing I'll say, Audra, because I was caught up, I know that there's some material that came through late in the afternoon, so I just will need maybe some additional guidance of what has come through that is countering what is, because I'm
Sure, yeah.
not successfully gonna be
With
tracking
the-
it. Yeah,
With this really doesn't, anything new you got doesn't really have any bearing on the general government stuff. So all the IT and insurances is the same. So for the IT budget, really the increases here are just increases to the overall cost of the software. So this is really where all of our different, software systems that we use to run the town sit. So anything from, like the finance office's software to, the presentation that Caitlin did on GIS and, sort of our enterprise software, which is Office 365, all sits within this budget. So, when the cost of all of those software programs increases, that budget increases. So any questions about it?
I'm just gonna eyeball the recommendations list real quick, just to see if there's anything on there. Just because.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm also on the Conservation Commission, and the GIS thing is paramount to like so much of what the Conservation Commission does, as well as other people. I mean, it's really, really, really valuable. And it is just maintaining the status quo.
On the IT budget, is there a way to cut $16,000 so it stays at a 3 or 4% increase?
I guess only if there's something that you don't want us to do anymore. We'd have to cut a service or something else that we're doing in order to do that.
Audra, this is a really naive question. Is the town a nonprofit?
We have nonprofit. So if somebody donated us money, much like with a nonprofit, it would be a tax exempt gift. We're not like
Because
incorporated under like tax code like a nonprofit. We're different because we're government.
because Microsoft has a program for nonprofits.
We have the government version.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So you're already scoring on that. It's
Yeah, I
pretty
don't think that they give us much of a break on it.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Are licenses like pooled through Maine Municipal Association or anything like that? Can you?
Some of them are like, for example, our finance software, pretty much most municipalities in the state of Maine use what we use, which is Trio. Some of the bigger municipalities use a more powerful software system called Munis. And a lot of that, I think, originally was done through some sort of bid or agreement with Maine Municipal Association. But that was so long ago, and there have been so many iterations of it since then that it's all very much separately managed. And the only time, we kind of work as a group through MMA with something like that is when there's a problem. Like we all have the same problem, and they can sort of advocate on our behalf to our, our vendor to fix it. And, at one point they did the same thing with websites, but now that it was when everyone was first getting a website, there was like a bulk purchase through, one web developer that did municipal websites, but things have moved on since then. And it's difficult with software because municipalities are just different enough that, and I think this will change with, AI. But before there were just different providers offering different services that made sense depending on how big or small you were and how complicated you are.
Chris, you have a
So
question?
short answer, no, there's nothing really anymore.
What caused the $12,000 increase in the maintenance and technical services, and what causes the $7,400 increase in software?
So the maintenance and technical services, that's where our managed services contract sits. So with our IT provider that, does all of our security and, keeps everything updated. And they do a lot with our hardware, like managing our, replacement schedule of, all of our hardware.
And, you know, they increase their, you know, contract with us for managed services.
And for the operational software?
It's really just vendors increasing the price of that software.
Matt, do you have a question?
I was just gonna say, if the committee feels like the, you know, the vendor services for IT and technology broadly are high, then what, we just put it out to bid again? I mean, that's what you do, right? It's not about,
Yeah, and
you just have to go looking for new vendors, pretty much. So
yeah, and it's this is kind of a tricky one because, you know, you can put it out to bid to get like a new software, but then the cost of converting everything that you have over is
sure,
often
switching costs and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so, you know, usually there's a process for trying to do the analysis on if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And so it's on, if you it's a quick back of the napkin, right? So if we think it's really too much to bear, we look at it. You know, it's also, and Chris, I think you'd agree here because you work in this field generally. It's really about just who your partner is. So if you like your partner and they're delivering good service, and the whole market is sort of going up in price, and you can qualify that, then to your point about switching costs and you know, the devil you know is better than the devil you know on those type of systems, which are oftentimes mission critical. You know, you really got to want to switch those partners.
Go ahead.
The other thing I want to say is, I know for the last couple of years, at least from the Conservation Commission's point of view, we've been trying to get the IT things upgraded so that it could be better utilized for trees, wastewater issues and different stuff like that, which is all on the GIS thing, but it's really outdated. And we've been shot down every time, but that's been 3 years in a row. I mean, it's really outdated now. And so if there was a big problem, they keep taking out another there. It's just kind of crazy. It's like, this saves a ton of work for people and man hours by having the technology to the problem to take care of it.
The service provider contracts, are they 3-year terms, or are there terms baked into what the contracts themselves are? Or are we at the mercy of what they come back annually with?
We're really at the mercy of what they come back annually with, because a lot of them are subscription-based software systems now. So, you know, it's really kind of whatever they adjust their price to be.
Go ahead, Mark.
A couple questions. How long have you worked with this vendor? And this would be the vendor that's responsible for if there's any phishing for the and protect us from that.
Yeah, so
and-
just for the managed services.
And how many other vendors that do this particular service are familiar with, and you know how, you know, I can't believe there's a lot of vendors that would work with a town this small in Maine, and having the best there is. What's your evaluation of the service they've provided these years?
So this is just specifically for the maintenance technical services line. So we've worked that with that vendor. I think going back to the early 2000s, from what I understand. And there are other vendors in the area, and there are definitely other ones that would take us on. But really for us, it's always been the switching costs. You really become intertwined with a company like that after a long amount of time, and just the logistics of switching become, it would be a huge project that would take pretty much everybody to do that. And the other part of it is we're kind of like hovering on the edge, and we have been for a few years, where we're almost big enough to justify having like a dedicated IT person. But we're just not quite there, and we wouldn't be able to get rid of the managed services agreement as well, because even if you had like a dedicated IT person, you still need somebody like a company that's pushing out those updates. So, we're in a kind of an awkward spot with that. And I would say that, we're satisfied with the service that we get from them. We haven't had, we haven't had really any major problems. Like there's some towns that have had ransomware attacks. And
Right. I'm aware of
problems like
that.
that.
When I was on the board, we had no problems.
Yeah.
And I like Matt's thought about the devil you know versus the devil you don't. You can save a little money, but it may cost you in the long term.
Yeah. And I think for us with anything, it's just the switching costs, because we've done that with, a few things. Like we did that with the website back in 2018. And, there were a few other, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but software changes that we've made over the years. And just that's a huge project in and of itself. So, if we were to switch to a new provider, we might, like you said, save some money, but the cost associated with man hours from switching wouldn't make it worth it unless it was a huge
ahead, Matt.
change.
I'm sorry if I'm ignorant, I don't know this. When you're talking with the doubling, so it's essentially almost doubled since FY '24, right? What is the main driver of that double? It can't, I realize it's the service contract since the vendor, but what are they saying? Because it's usually not, in my experience, the software itself. So what did they double in price in the last few years?
Some of it wasn't just, it was purchasing new software that we've brought on over the years, and I would have to remember exactly.
So is this more reflective of a one-time spike in cost because we had to buy new software? Like how often does that happen?
So I'm trying to think back to the last time that we bought like a major, I think it was like the iWork permitting software. So we used to do all of our permitting very manually. Like it was all just kept track of, I don't know, like they had spreadsheets.
All systems across all
Yes.
areas of government.
Yep.
How many systems is that roughly?
So
How many agreements, I guess, is that roughly?
there's a list of everything right here in the notes section. So we have, do you want me to? So another one that I forgot off the top of my head, and this is just new last year, was the STR permitting software. So that's $10,500. Payroll outsourcing,
Did
payroll
all
is
of
another
them
big one.
double, or was there one vendor that like really spiked price, or were there a couple that you felt this with, or was it all across the board?
When interest rates increased sort of post-pandemic, we started to see, and it was kind of like year after year, they started selling, a lot of these companies started being acquired by larger, or they consolidated more. And so that changed pricing a lot, and it kind of took a few years, and we're still kind of seeing
So
some of the
given the number of
effects.
vendors that I see there and the different nature of each vendor, if they all went up in price similarly, you have to assume it's the whole market. I'm not sure the switching costs would make sense or any sort of like extra money poured into looking at that.
Yeah. But I would say that, the more I look at the list and think of like when we brought these programs on, some of them are new within the past few years, like, iWork and Decker Technology, that's new.
You gotta imagine you cycle through at a reasonable pace, especially because most of it's probably SaaS at this point, right?
Yeah.
Any other?
And Audra, back to
Go ahead.
the maintenance and technical services, just speaking from a practical, for someone who uses it every single day, our IT contractor knows every piece of our municipal software and knows every piece of all the operational software. So they can go in and out remotely, but they also just show up within a 10-minute time frame if we are really struggling. And that is a huge sell for me.
Karen, did you have your hand up? Did you have your hand up?
No.
Oh, I thought you did. Okay. Any other? Go ahead, Jeff. Oh, Jeff, then Mark.
Make a motion to approve the suggested town manager's amount of $297,775 for information technology.
There's a second.
And I was going to make the same motion, so I'll second it.
Okay, any comments? Okay, all in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. And I did want to make note, because I did see it written in the report, Matt, that of making note of the approvals, right? There was something that was omitted in when we've been voting of how many were yays and how many were nays. Anyway, I'm going to table that for myself for later, but it just, and yeah, you mentioned it. It was mentioned in the narrative that there was, yeah, just of making sure we're recording, first, second.
Recording
and
the vote.
Recording the vote. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we are gonna, it's in there. There was a reference of just having
How many people voted yes or no?
voted yes, no.
Several past budget approvals were not recorded. What you were suggesting.
We'll go back.
I was just looking, sorry.
I'll go back and dive into it. I just want to, yeah. I'll go back. I'll go back. Yeah. It was just to acknowledge that we're voting now, so I want to make sure we get it. All right. We're going to go to insurances on page 12, same tab. Is
All
there a
right.
12? There is no 12.
There is no 12.
Mine says 12 on the new one, so let me go back. Hold on.
The old one, it says 7.
Okay, so 7. Since there is no 12, we're gonna go with 7.
Looks like 7.
Okay, 7 it is, because there is no 12, so that makes it easy.
I think you're right, though. 12 is the updated one.
The updated, yeah, says 12.
Yeah.
There is no
Fine,
12.
a negative sign. What? Sign 7, page 7.
I don't have page 7.
In tab 3?
But that may be what got replaced. So what I now have between 6 and 8 is that has 12.
Yep, that's right. That's the right one.
Wow.
You found it. Okay. So
All
yours
right.
is so we have 12 and 7. What is your number before we even start this discussion?
Yes, that's the updated one.
Okay. So I need,
Updated?
so let's all find 12.
So this was one that changed significantly when we did the readjustment with the PD budget.
Please hold.
Do you want to hear me? Oh, no, that's okay. You're welcome. All right, so this
So
is.
343, 400 is what you have? Okay, I found it. Does everybody have page 12? What's that? Formerly known as 7. Do you want my copy?
Where would we get page 12?
That's a good one. Let's,
It was like one of the revised budget pages that was
Yeah.
emailed 2 or 3 meetings ago.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
I've got it over here.
do you want to pay, yeah, it was part of one of the packets that was distributed,
Got it.
at a prior meeting. Okay. All right.
Would it help if Jody shared her screen?
Yeah, Jody, would you be so kind?
I will do my best.
Yeah. Yeah. Renee, would you be able to put it up there as well?
You guys, if you go to the email sent on 3/19 from,
Janice,
who was it from?
not me.
It was sent on 3/19 from Holly. And it says updated draft 3/19, that's on that one, on page 12. Or you can look at there.
Or we can look up there.
I can't say, is it the 343 figure or the 260 figure?
343.
Okay.
I just yelled that. I wasn't really. I was very
All at the same time.
I think my histamines are like, it's allergy season, so I'm just all worked up. Yeah, we could share.
All right, so everyone can see it now?
Yes.
All right, so general liability insurance. So this is, it covers all of our vehicles, equipment, any property damage. It also is, liability for the public officials' liability insurance and, anything that happens when anybody's performing their job. So that insurance went up about 16,800 for the premium. For our unemployment insurance, we were actually given a dividend check this year, which would have covered any premium that we'd have to pay this year. So we don't need to budget to pay for that. For workers' comp insurance, it's gone up about 25,000. And that's really just due to, our experience or claims that we've had to lodge for, on-the-job injuries. And then the final one is very small, the retiree life insurance.
Does any of this, any of this insurance cover public events?
Yes, yep, the general liability insurance.
So can you talk about the consequence of having the police department back in the town budget?
Yes, so when we went to our carrier and asked them about, what would be the impact of, of not being, the police department not being managed by the town, it's about a $40,000 difference because the general liability and, that's just a kind of like a rough number, but the general liability insurance also covers police liability. And so that's quite a large expense. And for the workers' comp insurance, each job is sort of rated differently in terms of like their risk factor. And, there are some professions that are, more inherently risky for injuries than others. So, like laborers, the folks at Public Works and Parks and Rec and some of the wastewater positions, they have a higher rating than a lot of, somebody who works in an office. And police officers are kind of like an in-between in terms of their level of risk. So, when you factor all that in for a staff of 10 and a half people, it's about a $40,000 difference across those two different insurance categories.
Kind of piggybacking on that, that would be if the whole department we didn't have the whole department, but what would happen if sorry. What would happen if, I'm assuming it would go down, like if certain positions were cut, then that would also make it go down.
Yeah, so the less people to insure for both the liability and workers' comp, the
Not
lower
like a
it's-
blanket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other inquiries? Any motions?
Excuse me. I'll make a motion to accept the town manager's recommendation on insurance.
And just confirming that's for $343,400.
Yes.
Any comments before we vote? All in favor? We are unanimous. See how I'm enunciating unanimous in the microphone? So, awesome. So we are going to move on. So for debt capital contingencies, before I direct everybody to tab 8, page 30, those are revised pages that we got, Audra, or?
These have all, I think that the only difference are,
Okay, I'm just checking.
yeah, I think it's pretty much the same as
Okay.
before.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll start debt service principal and interest, tab 8, page 30. Sorry for leaning over.
Audra, I don't know if this is the right time to mention it, but in your updated letter, you talked about the ban next year and interest and payment coming due on the bond.
Yes.
Is there an estimate of what that is going to look like?
Yes, and I'd have to go through, sort of our current debt right now, because there'll be a combination of the bond that was approved for infrastructure work for the sewer collection system, as well as stormwater and then, some road and sidewalk work. So that was a $12.5 million bond, but we've been using a band so that we only pay interest on the, what we've drawn down and what we've done. And to date, I believe it's under $3 million worth of work that we've done. And one of the reasons that we haven't spent more is because we've done one round of pipelining throughout town. And it looks like that's been incredibly successful. And that's a much cheaper way of addressing the problems with our sewer infrastructure than digging up the entire road and replacing all that pipe. So we're scheduled to do another round this summer of pipelining all around town. And that might put us in a really good position to relook at all of that $12.5 million and figure out what do we actually really need to do. That being said, we're at a point where we need to convert what we've spent into permanent financing, and it's likely we'll roll in a number of other items that we've borrowed for, like capital equipment and some of like the public safety building, into sort of one multi-purpose bond, which is similar to what the town did with financing the redevelopment of the Snow Bowl, as well as I think it was like a pump station rebuild or some other sewer work that was done at the time. So it's looking like, and I know this is like convoluted way of saying this, but there's certain debt in this schedule that you see in front of you that will be consolidated into that larger bond. And it looks like it'll be $9 to $10 million, and the payment will be between $550 to $650 a year. So we're going to have to like pick through to figure out which of those would come off, but that would be the payment in FY28 that we're looking at.
That would be the total, 550 to 650, it would be the total.
Annual, yeah, the annual debt service payment, and that'd be like a portion of it would be 30 years, and a portion of it would be less for some of the equipment.
If I may, there was a handout last week which showed next year's capital expenses or debt expenses being more closer to $1.3 million. Where does that belong in this?
So it would go into the debt schedule. You'd see a new line for that bond payment.
So this 513,000 becomes 1.3 million? It's unclear to me.
So it'd be split out between principal and interest, because there's a principal and then the interest below. So part of it would go, the principal that we'd be paying would go as a new line in the debt service principal, and then there'd be a new line in the interest as well. And combined, it would be between 550 and 650, split out between those two areas in the budget.
So the amount that 513,000 plus the 249,000 in debt and interest becomes what in 28?
So if you add another 550 to 650 on top of that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But it would replace.
Marina, we just
It'll replace a little bit of this.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
I'm just clarifying, it would replace some of this, like it would replace the ban.
Interest only. Yep.
Line for 100,000.
Yes.
Are there any other?
There's some
that you kind of know
truck,
right off that you think would be?
yeah,
good
some of the
consolidated
smaller
with that?
truck purchase, like plow truck purchases that will be consolidated into that.
So I see 5 truck lines. Do you think like
Yeah.
all of those get consolidated?
No, some of them will be close
No,
enough to
no.
paying off that we wouldn't, but the ones in,
Big ones.
yeah, the Freightliner, the 2025 Freightliner, the plow trucks for this year, 2026, would be rolled into that. The fire truck purchase that we were talking about will become part of that, as well as, the public safety building. And, the groomer for the Snow Bowl as well will be rolled into that.
Sarah, is it relevant to talk about the recommendation tied to this
Yeah,
section?
yeah, I've been trying to keep an eye on any recommendations that we can ask questions before any, yes.
No, I mean,
Yes.
I was looking for your lead on recommendations. When
Yeah,
to go into that stuff.
Yeah, I think since we're working, I think it's, yes.
And so I remember Dave St. Laurent has a recommendation as well, and it'll help this financial year. So after Matt goes, I just want to.
Well, let's let David talk first.
Okay.
Dave, do you want to talk about the projects that are embedded in your budget?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I know that this is a tough year, and I went back, kind of looked at my budget real carefully. We had a meeting with a company about the Forest Main project. I talked with Audra about the bond payment, and then I took into consideration a lot of what Chris Nolan had said. I mean, he made a good point. There's a lot of potential for like the 2 projects that we're talking about doing this year goes into the bond. I thought more about that, and I think that in this kind of situation makes a lot of sense. So I ran some numbers and I harvested out all of the costs associated with those 2 projects. And what I found was that and I want to just say that because we've kind of transformed the department into more of a construction group in the summertime, we're doing less of like reactive maintenance and more proactive maintenance. But when you do more proactive maintenance, you don't do a lot of reactive maintenance at the same time. So when I looked at this budget originally, a lot of my lines like sidewalks, street maintenance, storm sewer, culverts, and paving, rental and erosion, rental, I think erosion control is in street maintenance, but in rental, all seem to have an uptick. But those were incorporating the cost of the project. So when you pull those out, it really actually reduces my operating budget, theoretically, if you look at it that way. And when I pulled all the numbers of the project out of my operation budget, because I was trying to squeeze in capital improvements into operations, but not make it so large that it wasn't, palatable, but also got the job done on both sides. And I came up with for Park Street, I came up with $243,572. That's total project cost. And on Rawson Avenue, I came up with $159,222. And when you add those 2 together, you come up with $402,794. So when you subtract that from the delta between 2005 and 2006, that number's $408,900, which is about a 0.29% increase in my operational budget. So I think that would be a flat budget. So I think, I would recommend, I'm not recommending, but I'm saying that this might be an alternative to incorporating it into our operational budget, make it more of a, part of the bond and more of a capital project. And it keeps my budget flat. But it is actually, if you really think about it, it's a reduction in my budget. So I think that, that could be a good alternative to this. I mean, one of my concerns was the, not having enough left over in the bond for some of this force main issue and some of the I&I work. But I feel like we can do both. And I think it's an option for you folks, which we could do. That being said, the only thing I would ask is that we wouldn't, one line, which would be the sidewalk budget, I would ask to keep $30,000 of what I'd be taking, add $30,000 to that line after we took the projects out. And the reason for that being is I just found out today that I was awarded the 3 rapid flashing beacons for Washington Street that they've been requesting for 4 years now from the state. And that's a $40,000 value. Those are the flashing lights for the kids that cross the sidewalk at Spring. There's 3 street crossings at Washington Street that they wanted them installed at. And the reason I'd want that sidewalk line to remain at, an additional 30,000 would be because I need to do that sidewalk work to incorporate in those rapid flashing beacons, because part of the requirement is I got to create a tip down and make them ADA accessible. So I'll need some money in that sidewalk budget to do that. But all of the capital project would be pulled out of it. So I'd have roughly a $30,600 increase in my budget if you did that.
Chris, do you have a question?
Yeah, I think I can, and hopefully summarize what Dave said. Basically, formerly the budget had a $409,000 increase or 18%. And so when I did some quick math, he needed to cut that by $319,000 to basically be at a 4% increase over the year from last year. So with moving, your numbers are right around 300, 350, right, Dave, when you came down to it, of what?
When I ran the numbers, I was at 402,794. That's all in of all both projects.
What about the street paving at 400,000? Is that something that can't be capitalized?
Well, you could, let me see here if I capitalize that. I did capitalize that. And the reason my thought process was on that was because that keeps my street paving higher and I can incorporate the additional road maintenance that I wanted to do originally, which was in the explanation of the 10-year turnaround on the roads.
Yeah, so the 400 can be capitalized then, right? 400 or no?
The 400 can be capitalized.
I
So
think,
this is-
Dave, I
this
think
is
he's
my-
asking about all of your paving. You don't want to capitalize your entire paving budget.
No, not the paving budget at all. The paving budget would stay the same. And I would just capitalize the paving portion of Park Street, which is, I'm bouncing between the screens here. The paving portion of the, of Park Street would be $69,800. So, you saw $125,000 proposed increase in my paving budget. Well, it hasn't changed in like 4 or 5 years. And of that 125,000, roughly half of it is going to the capitalized portion of, going to Park Street. So really, theoretically, it's only going up, $60,000 for the rest of the town. And the reason that paving line is so high is because of that explanation about when you have to redo a complete road, instead of doing an inch on it and doing a maintenance pave, you're putting 4 inches. So I'm proposing putting all of those costs, including the paving of Park Street, into the capital, into the bond, leaving my paving budget the way it is with the increase in it, which will help me catch up on some of the roads that are falling behind. This is a super aggressive budget and it's super lean. I'm trying to do my best to do that. So, in consideration of, tax increases and the overall situation with the town right now. It's going to take a lot of work to get this done this way. But I think we can do it. I think it saves the increase upfront in the taxes and puts the capital projects that we really want to do, that have been kicked down the road for a long time, into the bond.
So oh, go ahead.
What's the downside to moving it to capital?
It just had less.
I think the downside to moving it to the bond is there is no downside, because like Audra said, we've been seeing, we anticipated on doing a lot of the repair work on the I&I through projects, but we've done a lot of that through lining. So just because the bond is 12 million approved by the 12.5 approved by the voters, doesn't mean we would end up spending all of that. So when Chris initially asked about it, I was a little concerned because I didn't understand the total scope. Well, I understood the scope, but I maybe was a little concerned about the cost of the force main on from the plant to Bayview. But I think we'll have enough to do. Well, I know we'll have enough to do that. I think we'd be fine. That's just pretty much where I'm at. I think that it's a small enough number, these two projects, where it won't have an impact. And I think the savings was from the lining.
I mean, I think being able to take that proposal and have it translate into a revision to the budget as we're seeing it, since we're not voting on the final budget this evening, would be, very helpful in terms of, because I know there's a series of recommendations that we're going to be asking about, project specific ones, process specific ones. And so other than hearing, Dave, kind of what you have proposed there, how that impacts anything that we'd be voting on tonight, I'm just trying to get that clarity.
I mean, I think what I would do is give these numbers to Jody and adjust my budget. And each line of my budget, I've already broken them all out. I have it all itemized.
Yeah. Chris has
which would in turn change the capital, which is what we're talking about now. But that's
it wouldn't change the capital because it'd be rolled in with the bond.
That's
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So it wouldn't change it in this budget, but it'll show up next year.
But the cost will be spread out over the 30-year term.
Right.
But in short, doing some quick math of the additions to the budget compared to last year across all departments, I figured it's somewhere around $550,000 with the budgets being the way they are right now with the copies that we have. So by Dave decreasing his operational budget by $350,000, that does us a good job in getting closer to a 3% overall increase, because the biggest increase that we had in those budgets, in the operational budgets, was $319,000 increase in the public works one.
Yeah.
So by removing that and instead piecing that over 30 years or whatever the period is, that's helpful.
Yeah. No. Understood.
Jody helped me, and I think it'd be helpful for everybody in keeping your mind about this. Every $100,000 reduction is worth about 1.5% so if you increase revenues by 100K, that's 1.5% to the good. If you decrease expenses by 100K, that's 1.5% to the good. So, and we need to find 10%. That's, in my mind, that's how I'm keeping that number.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I think if we can get those revisions and bake it into, in addition to what our final review will be, and also some recommendations in terms of how things are handled. And I know Matt was going to raise one of the recommendations next. I think, like I said, I think obviously that's like the goal we have and what we're trying to get to. I just know we can't necessarily vote on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was actually going to say, I was anticipating voting on this today.
Right.
So I wanted to do the recommendation after the vote because I don't want it to stop because it's not really about this budget
Right.
number per se,
Right.
but it's a reaction to this budget number.
No.
We are concerned, and Audra, maybe you can speak to this a little bit. We think this is a really low number, right? Like we're concerned about kicking the can down the road on our town infrastructure and the ability to maintain it.
We think the capital is a low number.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Because usually it's much like what it was over $1 million last year, and I think we're still behind, right, Dave?
Yes.
And so it's kind of time to start taking the medicine, right, and figuring out how do we right that ship. And so we're making a recommendation to select board that you consider a target on a policy minimum for capital investment in the budget so that this doesn't become a habit of like, hey, this becomes a great place for us to save money if we can get Dave to do less. That helps our budget. It just, we don't think that should be one of the places that it comes out of.
So can I say something that kind of complements that a little bit? I could tell you a story about a guy that worked in Rockland who went down this road and they chiseled away his budget each year and took more and more of the paving to the point where he didn't have a paving budget left. This was before I got there. And
I thought it was
by the
you,
end of it,
Dave. I thought it was you.
well, hear me out. By the end of it, he had
That's
a
how
very
Dave
small-
got the job.
This is how Dave got the job. The guy didn't pave a road in 10 years, and then the town rioted. And then we had to take out a $12 million bond to pave all the roads. So, it's just a little bit of a heads up that, this is good for this year and will get us through this year, but next, and it also does a little bit of good because it increases the paving line a little bit, but this is a very aggressive razor thin budget.
Yeah.
And you need to keep that in mind. You don't want to do this year after year because it's only going to hurt you in the long run.
Yeah. No, Dave, and I appreciate it. And like I said, even just to echo what Chris said earlier, and is that there's some recommendations that as a committee, I think we're going to want to put forward for consideration next year, and many rabbit holes that we're not going to be able to go down for this year to finalize it. So it's kind of, there is going to be some split in terms of what we are confident voting through and moving through today, even though from a process perspective, the recommendations we hope will be considered and potentially adopted before next year.
But to kind of like maybe not fully go down the rabbit hole that Matt mentioned,
Little rabbit
but
hole. Yeah, that's why we have an extra meeting.
to speak to it. So, so a floor on our annual sort of capital investment in all of our facilities, equipment, infrastructure. So I saw that recommendation came out and I thought, well, why don't I do a little bit to try to figure out what that range might be given the value of our infrastructure, what we have, what we kind of are aware of the condition that it's in. And really, we should be budgeting about $1.5 to $2 million a year combined debt service payments, as well as capital projects that we're, doing on an annual basis to keep pace with maintaining everything that we have or rebuilding everything that we have so that we're not falling behind to a point where things are deteriorating at a level that you just can't keep up with. And we're kind of a victim of, I think, 50 years of underinvestment in all of our infrastructure and facilities. So we're all kind of playing catch up now. And a lot of what you're struggling with is, trying to address this during a time when all the costs are going up. Construction costs are one of the things that are, most inflated across the entire economy. So, we're all kind of experiencing this now because we've had infrastructure that really hasn't been rebuilt or maintained on a consistent schedule for 50 years. And now we're all kind of trying to figure out how to do that in a fiscally responsible way and not impact taxpayers too much. But, there's only so much that we can do if we're committed to maintaining our infrastructure, facilities, capital equipment, and also funding services at the same level that we funded them at for the past however long. So.
Go ahead, Dave.
One last thing. So I pulled the file on Rawson Avenue. I just wanted to give you this little bit of input. And I found the prior Public Works Director's old notes on Rawson Avenue trying to put the sidewalk in with his calculations. And he basically was only going to do a small part of it from, he was only going to go up to the pump station. And I just kind of extrapolated the numbers of his cost at that time, and that was roughly 2016. And it was exactly what we had talked about in our presentation from the DOT's findings, that there's been almost a 70% increase in the cost of doing this. And then I also found that one of the local engineering firms, this was just to draw up and engineer and bid out the work, that was $20,000. So, think about that, and think about that was just a short time ago and what those costs were. So you're not seeing the $20,000 of engineering costs, which would probably be a lot greater than today. And that cost of doing that sidewalk would be, significantly more if we bid it out. And then if you use the numbers of trying to do it yourself back then, it's a 70% increase. So it just goes to show, like, it's just backing up what Audra's saying, that, we underinvested in the beginning, and now we're trying to catch up during a time when things have gone up so much. It's just it's a trap that we're in. And, we just have to have a good strategy to deal with it. I mean, it's much easier for me to not do anything, just to do the maintenance on stuff and not try to do the projects. But I don't think that's my job. My job is to, provide a service to the town, and save money and give them a good product. And that's what I try to do. So I just wanted to share that piece with you.
I appreciate it. So in terms of.
So I'd
Go ahead.
like to move that we table a final vote on this until we get a revised copy from Jody, and we'll revisit this at the next meeting.
I think it's a great proposal. Anybody telling a second?
Second.
So this, you talk about like the debt service principal and interest?
Yes.
Because that's not going to change.
Oh, no, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of the 12 point. Yeah, that's
Do you
right.
care to revise your proposal?
I'm going to rescind it.
You're gonna rescind.
Yes.
Audra, maybe the question is more around, so if we take what was funded in the operational budget from Dave's, we're putting that to the bond amount. That amount you mentioned of roughly $550,000 to $600,000 a year of debt payment, is that for the entire 12, use it or lose it? Or that's just the current? So the question would be, if it's 550 now or 600, whatever it is, if we add Dave's pieces to it from this year's budget, how much of an incremental increase is that to next year's debt instrument payment?
It's not going to impact it because I need to group together a bunch of projects, and there's certain projects that fall off, there's certain projects that fall on to the bond issuance.
So could you somehow do that in 3 or 4 columns of a spreadsheet showing
Yeah.
these fall off? And so we add in Dave's stuff this year to 2027 fiscal year budget. This is the impact in 8, and maybe the impact in 9, the estimated debt service incremental amount.
Yeah, we can go over what we're projecting the bond payments to be next meeting. We can do that easily.
Yeah.
This isn't really going to impact it one way or the other, because it just means that by adding these projects into that bond, there are other things that we won't do. There are other things we won't spend money on. So it keeps it even.
Jeff, might you have something to add?
I do, but I'm going to move on from this, what Dave was talking about, which I thought was a very creative solution and fully support it.
Chris, it's Chris's solution.
Sorry, it was Chris's solution. No, it's Chris's question. It was Dave's solution.
That prompted a solution.
You good with that?
It's good for a conversation.
Takes a village, takes a village.
Conversation, that's what
Yeah,
matters.
yeah.
Friction is good. Produce results.
Thank you. I just want to squeeze a little bit on is there any way we can put off any of the capital at all?
Capital projects.
Yeah. I'm thinking of can we make the trucks last one more year or anything like that? And I know that's running contrary to.
Do you all want to vote on the debt service interest and principal? Then we'll go talk about capital equipment
Yeah.
and projects.
Oh,
Yeah.
but it's related to what we choose to put in the budget.
No. No, because anything,
This is in process, or this is,
yeah, so
For next
anything, any of the, this is all current debt. And then the future debt would show up in the next budget.
this is we're already committed to everything that's in.
Mm.
This budget doesn't include the, like, the
You have your mic on
plow
before
trucks.
yell at you.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
yeah, the ones that are in the CIP are the new plow trucks. So the first payment on those would be in FY '28.
Even though it says 27.
The ones that are, yeah, because we get the authorization to purchase them in '27, and then we do the financing, and then that comes due in '28.
So are you asking about the $18,752
Yeah, I'm
times
just
2? That
wondering.
is shown in the department head and town manager budget for 27. Is that for a
Wait,
new
sorry,
truck
which-
in
I'm
27? or is
confused.
that
What are
when
we
bought
talking,
in
or
26?
which tab are we on? Are we on?
I'm on tab 8, page 30. I'm looking at the debt service
Debt service principal for the
principal. And
plow
I'm just
trucks.
wondering if
Yes.
those two 3001 new lines for plow trucks are the trucks that we've
Already purchased. Yep. So we purchased them in, the 26 ones are the ones that we purchased this year. And the 25 we purchased the year before.
Okay, so what we're voting on this year is more.
More.
Yes.
More
Yeah,
plow
more.
More plow trucks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's not more plow trucks, it's replacement of old plow trucks.
Yeah, sorry,
I
replacement
mean,
of old.
it's in addition
not-
to the
yes.
ones that are
It would
on
be, you would
this
see
list
another
that I'm
line
looking
item.
at.
Yes.
I think you're voting on the ones that have already been
We're
approved
committed
this
to
year.
these already.
That we've already
Yeah.
purchased.
Yeah, that's the 513,944. That's the first
Yeah.
piece. That's just the debt of prior purchases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Commitments that we
Yeah,
are already on the
commitments,
hook for, correct?
That's almost a better word than whoa.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this is a non-discussion item. So I move that we approve the town manager's budget amount of $513,944.
So we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any comments? All in favor? We are unanimous.
Yep.
Gonna do some stretching. Okay.
All right. Do we want to go straight to CIPs?
So can I just ask a question? We will need from Dave, though, a revised operational budget
Oh,
to
yeah.
vote on,
Oh, yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's gonna be
Yes.
included. Will need to be included next week before we do a final.
I'll work with Jody.
Interest too.
Sorry, what's that, Jody?
We'll have to do a vote for interest for the budget committee as well. The interest portion of the.
Oh, yes.
Before we meet next week, we will do a full inventory of every budget that needs to be revisited between feedback and
Yes.
changes before we do it. Okay.
Yep. Jody's just trying to get you to vote on the interest.
Oh, interest, going to interest.
I move that we accept the town manager's amount of $249,579.
Okay. Any comment? All in favor? Okay. All, it's unanimous.
All right, so capital reserves are.
What were you saying?
Do you want to go straight to the capital improvements?
Sure.
So
Let's
that's
do it.
32. So that's, we can get back to talking about plow trucks.
Which page is that again?
So that is page 32. Same tab.
So this is where the question of, can we get another year out of?
Out of the plow truck.
Yeah, you've got the big items are the sander, 139,000, the loader, 166,000, projection screens, 17, dimmers, 25,000. Side by side, I guess that's for the snowball, 45,000,
Mhm.
and an 88 deck at the Hosmer Pond. I would think each of these things maybe should be thought about, questioned if they're needed.
Oh, we have a whole list of kind of, potential, just of things to
That
be
you guys
considered.
did, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not just picking on plow trucks. Go ahead,
But
Marina.
since we have Dave here, I think we should ask the question directly, because those are by far the two biggest ticket items that we're looking at. And so tell us, is there, what would the implications be of deferring? We're renting equipment?
So the backhoe right now that we have, that's what we use to load the salt all winter long. And it's just old. Its job is to load salt, which is probably one of the most corrosive things that you can do with a piece of equipment. And if I didn't need it, I wouldn't ask for it. It's just getting to the point where I don't think we can do much more. I mean, we can keep it going, but it's becoming unsafe. You're in the joystick. You got a full load of, a yard and a half of salt. You're driving in a kind of a slippery environment. The bucket's wiggling back and forth, and the joystick is sticking, and it has no power, and it's all rusted. And would it be all right in a pit for somebody that uses it once a week? Maybe. Is it all right for multiple people to use it, loading a more expensive plow truck that you're driving into on an incline where it could let go and hit the truck, damage the truck, with multiple people using it? I mean, it's just getting to the point where, like I was using it this winter, and I was just like, man, this thing is on its last leg, and it's just getting to the point where something's gonna happen. And we've been maintaining it, but it's at the end of its useful life.
How old is it? Guess.
Chris, I don't have it right off the top of my head.
No,
but
just guess.
10, 15 years old. And it's in a salt environment all the time. And then the truck that I'm trying to replace is the one that does the downtown. And that is in a salt priority area, so we don't mix sand and salt. This truck's job is just to put salt down. And when we pulled the bed out, I had a person come in to see if we could replace the bed or weld it up, and it's just completely rusted in the back. I think I wanted to use it this summer for construction. So we were starting to go through it, and I'm afraid that the dump body is going to fall off of it if I use it this summer for construction. So I don't want to really be using that in the winter. That's kind of where we're at. I mean, I unfortunately I took this job on when most of that equipment was already 10 years old, and I've been trying to not buy anything. I really haven't bought a lot of equipment for the age of the equipment we have. It seems like I have, but I'm the person that's having to kind of fix or replace this stuff at the end of its useful life. at the last half of it. So that's kind of where we're at. I think after we do this truck, we're going to be in pretty good shape. The backhoe will be replaced. The only things that we could potentially have problems with down the road are maybe the sidewalk plows, but I think for the most part, this catches us up. I don't want to buy anything I don't need to. I just don't do that.
We can, yeah, you could vote and make any motion you want. You gotta put but with your mic. Huh?
The ones that, isn't it all 6?
No, you say, we'll say them.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to list the 6?
No, just the total.
Oh, the final number of 423,184?
I second that.
If we're still discussing, I'd like to look at the two requests from the Opera House. I think the Opera House will function as is without those upgrades. And in this environment, it just seems like, another savings. I'd like
someone
people to
anybody-
consider
Does
Does
that.
anybody know anything more about that?
37,000.
I'm hesitant to have an opinion
What's
without
that?
the person from the Opera House to say. So
And maybe it's broken or something. and
That's what I
we
mean.
don't. I don't know if it's an upgrade.
Yeah,
or what
Audra,
it
do you
is.
know if
Know
it's
enough
actually
about it.
broken or?
I don't know enough about it to answer
Okay,
questions about the projects.
go ahead, Mark.
I do know that Dave is very careful about requesting monies. I worked with him. Years ago, I was chair of the Opera House Committee. And when Dave came in as chair, or came in as the director, he saved a ton of money by changing the way they operate the Opera House, the way they use the staff. It's incredibly economical. And he's gotten grants for everything. In my knowledge, I think he wouldn't have asked unless he needed it. And one of the things I get nervous about is we make decisions about cutting equipment that I think, we just heard Dave talk about things that he needs without the knowledge to know more why they exactly need it.
Yeah, no, I think
And
that.
I have something to talk about later when we get there.
I have,
He does-
I have some explanations from Dave, if you'd like me to read them about the two items.
Yeah.
Okay. For the motorized projection screen, he writes, currently it takes 2 people about 15 minutes to set up the projection screen and 15 minutes to put it away. The current projection surface is about 12 feet away from the stage edge. Some of the renters that use our space have times when they want to use the whole stage, show a video, and then back to using the whole stage. In this case, we project the video on the CYC, which is the white curtain at the back of the stage. This is okay for people sitting in the center of the audience, but many on the edges and upstairs can't see the video well. The plan is to have a motorized projection screen come down in front of the grand yellow curtain. This will give our shows more flexibility. And then he goes on to name some examples. And then the other one is the house dimmers. This will give us switches next to the doors that are at the stairwell, allowing us to turn on lights before walking into the room. Currently, we walk through a dark room to turn the lights on with a key. This is the last stop to being able to get rid of the current dimmers. All of the house lights have been upgraded to LED bulbs. The current dimmers don't always work well with LED bulbs. When we fade the lights out to start a show, the lights will flicker or flash, causing unwanted effects. The system will also upgrade our lighting network for better control of the LED lights already on stage.
Go ahead, Marina.
Well, I'm going to just chime in because one of the things I raised as wanting to discuss further was some other Opera House related stuff. So I guess I just want to kind of think through all of it. I felt like I would like to get more from the Opera House than we have the last couple of years. We've gotten the same exact presentation that tells us what the Opera House does, but doesn't actually give us very much information about their budget. And I was left with like a nagging feeling about it when I started to look at it more closely, and just would would like a better understanding of, the efforts, like Mark, you're speaking of efforts you've seen Dave make, but he hasn't really told us anything about any of that.
That's
And
true.
there's no grant revenue indicated in the revenues. So if he's gotten grants, that was one of the things I was wondering.
He has gotten grants in the past. I
But,
do know that.
so I don't really necessarily want to nitpick at this particular item, but I am interested in better understanding the Opera House budget and what efforts they have made. The thing that I was noting and that is on our sheet here is that, they list some pretty good revenues for rentals and productions, but then they're really substantially offset by their corresponding expenses. So that when you look at what the actual income is from those lines, it's not nearly as big as it looks on, when you're looking at it just on the revenue sheet. So I'm just really curious to know if there's a potential for making more money off of rentals and productions. So it just, to me, I'd like to have a little bit of a better understanding overarching. And I kind of felt like, in contrast, we got on the same night, the library gave us like their full budget, which is helpful, even though it's not our job to micromanage it, just to like better understand. And we're being asked to obviously give a quite substantial amount of money to the Opera House. So I don't know what gets done this year versus next year. But
Would you like Dave to come back and give like a, sort of an overview of his expense budget, and then we could go over, like a snapshot of the year with like rentals and productions and, just to see what that entails from like a revenue side? Would that be helpful?
I mean, I think it would be helpful whether we do that this year or we're asking for that next year. I don't have a strong opinion.
Or we could do it outside of the budget process too.
Mhm. Yeah, it could be something that happens in between. I don't necessarily think we have enough time to get into that in the context of our budget committee meetings this year, but I would like that.
Yes.
Just to better understand
how it all works.
How it all is working.
And so we do have a motion in terms of, on the table, in terms of the capital improvements. And Deb, to your point, I have that same kind of, until I can see a revamped, fleshed out, and we have all of our discussions, I am viewing kind of even things that we're voting on still on the table in terms of potential. I'm not saying that we're going to be going back and doing revotes and revisions on every piece of it, but I do think, it's questions worth asking and revisiting before we're done. If we're looking at 18% versus 7% versus, and even if it was 3%, still questions worth asking because it is still a fiscal impact to us. But there is a motion to approve that. So do we have any other comments? Otherwise, I'm going to call a vote for it.
But what about the ATV? I know he's not here. There is a note about the dock, why that's required. It's a DEP memorandum of understanding. We have to do that. It seems like we can't cut that. That's in there in the note at the bottom of that. But the ATV, hey, if we're picking on Dave for his backhoe, we got to pick on the side-by-side too, even though it's not as much money that we're talking about, but it's kind of the same thought process. It'd be nice to know. It's at the end of life, but.
I mean, we could.
Did you have more? I don't know.
Right.
You have others?
I mean, we have a motion on the floor to vote, but we also could vote our conscience and not, and then proceed to table it. Go ahead. Okay. I saw green.
I was thinking about
it.
Let's see what it played out here.
Just not vote on it then?
Well, since we have.
I'm gonna put the motion to vote again.
Yeah.
Because I just don't I'm not worried about the backhoe. I'm not worried about the side-by-side. We're looking at a deficit here that's pretty significant. Cutting 45K here, 30K here is not getting us out of the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
We have to spend more time looking at revenue generation, kind of like what Mariano was talking about. So if our professionals, the people we have installed in these roles tell us that we need these things, we are not professionals to sit here and go, okay, like, you can get another year out of that ATV, or you don't need it, or whatever. I'd rather just put it to vote.
I agree.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to call it then. All in favor? All opposed? All abstaining? Okay, so we got one opposed and one abstaining. Mark, how did you vote?
I voted
You voted yes. Okay, sorry. Okay. I'm used to looking in three directions. Okay.
All right.
You know, I like to spend money. Come on.
Yeah, right.
All right, so
So then
Capital-
associated.
capital
yeah.
reserves,
Capital reserves.
page 31.
And then we're going to do revenues because we're at 30 minutes.
I want to ask one question really quick, Roger. What happened to the float at Hosmer Pond? Because that was not a very old float.
The Y camp.
Oh, okay. Just curious because it was a lot of excitement when that was installed just a few years ago. It was a really good thing, and I saw people using it.
Stuff like
Yeah, it was a great thing. So just curious why it needed replacing.
So we're doing page 31. Oh, 31. Capital reserves.
So for capital reserves, this one also sort of minimal reserve funding we're proposing. So for the accrued benefits and the paid family medical leaves, that's the 15,000 and then the 40,000. Those are really important that we start building them up. So accrued benefits, it's, anybody who leaves or retires, who has, vacation that they're owed or sick time that they're owed. We use this reserve fund to cover that if we don't have enough in the operating budget. And the paid family medical leave, that's the new program that the state is mandating. So just making sure that we have plenty of reserves there, or building that up over time so that when we have employees who are utilizing it, we're able to fund it if we don't have money within the operating budget to support it. So for the other capital reserves, so that I would say that the 25,000 for the snowball, that is definitely something that you could all make the decision not to fund this budget cycle, given the position that we're in coming out of this snowball season. The harbor dredging, the 10,000, I'd recommend keeping that as well as the piling replacement. That's something that we need to build up reserves for those things. And then the revaluation as well. That's something that we're not going to do for another several years, but certainly building that up so that we're not paying, 150,000 all in one financial, or not having to raise 150,000 in one financial year to do that, I think is a better way to go. But definitely the snowball reserve, I think we could be comfortable not funding this year.
I'll make a motion that we approve the town manager's amount of minus the snowball reserve for $100,000.
Comments? Okay, all in favor? Look at us, unanimous. Okay, 100,000. And then we're going to move to page 33 for contingencies next. Yep. And then revenues, our favorite topic. I'm excited. 33, sorry. Yes. I saw 33, said 32.
So this is our customary $40,000 contingency funding.
Comments?
Make a motion to approve the contingency amount of $40,000 from the town manager.
Second, comment, question? All in favor? Unanimous, okay. Okay. Budget revenues. So green pages, or do we have revisions? Are there
I think
I'm-
we sent out revised
Yeah.
green pages.
How long is it?
Yeah, let's all start.
I think
I
that was in the
Replaced.
I don't have any printed green
packet.
pages.
Yeah. When was it? The 19th, I think?
So it's the one that says, this is that.
Oh, okay.
Was the 19th?
319.
What's that?
319.
Yes. Yep.
319 and page,
Ah, there we go.
Audra, can I just ask a quick question?
yeah.
I don't have any, I don't have any votes from the budget committee for the professional services, which is the legal.
Oh, okay.
That's the only one I'm missing for the expense side, so.
Oh,
We did that then?
We did not vote on
oh, we missed that one. We're
It's page 3.
going back.
If I
Tab-
recall, generally, the big thing there was we had a
Question
doubling
about
of fees of legal. Is
Yeah,
that what it
it went
was?
up like about 7,000. The question was for a retainer about,
Bond counsel. I
what was that?
legal services fee.
Yeah, and my question on the legal services, and this is my only question, was, do we have enough for legal counsel? Like, are we considering any other legal challenges, or is the town anticipating any legal challenges right now?
So the way that we have this structured, it's like a fixed fee, and he covers everything, so litigation as well as our sort of day-to-day general.
Great.
It's a really good,
Good deal.
it's a very good
Okay.
deal. I don't actually like to
No
talk
further
about
questions,
it that
John.
much. Yep.
But the retainer is going up by 7. Is that?
Yeah, the,
And what's that increase
To-
based on? Just his request?
no, we, because he doesn't adjust his fees annually, so we've done this because we were in an arrangement with the city of Belfast where he was a full-time employee of the town of Camden, and they reimbursed us 2/3 of his costs, so 2/3 of his wages and benefits. And then that arrangement changed, and so he stayed on as sort of like a, fixed fee. And we've been just adjusting it annually with a cost of living adjustment. Keeps him from really looking at how much work he does for us.
I had a question about the water quality monitoring, because it's a contract with the McGonagall watershed, which we also just gave stuff to. So is this because when they apply for this, it's coming from a different account, or like?
Yes, yep. And this is, so the water quality monitoring, a lot of it, so there was an arrangement where we bought the equipment, and then they deploy it and they manage it, and they read all the data from it. But it's just so much data that comes out of it, and they don't have anyone internally who can prepare the reports based on the data that they get back. So they have to hire somebody to do the data analysis and write the report. So that's a lot of the cost of that.
Okay, so for professional services, any,
Oh, and the one that you've probably noticed is the bond counsel going up to 10,000 this year. And that is going to be really important for when we do the combined bond that we're talking about, converting the bond anticipation note into the bond. Just, we need bond counsel to do that. It's a very specialized field within the legal profession. So our general counsel doesn't do bond counsel as well. And unfortunately, our bond counsel actually retired this year. So we need to find new bond counsel.
Any other professional service? If you put your mic on, you can.
I propose a motion to vote on the town manager's budget of 175,123.
Comments? All in favor? Okay, unanimous there. All right, Jody, we could take that off the list. Okay. So moving on to the revenues, that is, so reconfirming that was distributed on the 3/19.
Yes. Jody, is that right? That's the most up-to-date revenue?
Yes.
And the only change I saw was eliminating chamber and
So can you
So
give
the-
us a little
and
background
parking.
on the chamber building lease and what's going on there?
parking and chamber. That's-
Yes, those are the ones. So with the chamber building, we are going to be renting it out after they finish doing work on the building. So there's most of I think the internal work on the building is done and ready for a tenant. And there's some external work, like the roof needs to be replaced and there, just some window work around the windows. And then we're going to put it on the market with a real estate agent and try to find a tenant for that building. Just with, I'd rather under budget and be conservative about revenues than over budget and not hit that target. And this was one where I just felt like there was a lot of uncertainty around what that could end up being. So I thought leaving it out was better than taking a guess and, not hitting that target.
Has there been interest already from potential tenants?
A few real estate agents have said they know of people that would be interested, but we really haven't, because we haven't put it on the market. It's hard to tell.
Any guess what you might ask for a renter?
I'm really hoping the real estate agent is going to help us out with that
Yeah,
and
get-
figuring out what's appropriate.
You think by the time the select board sees that, maybe we can get an estimate
estimate,
from a
yeah.
reasonable,
Hopefully, I don't know for certain, but
Did you say it needs a roof too? You mentioned that?
yeah, roof needs to be replaced. Yep.
Do we have anybody in our public works stuff that does roofing?
We do have people, but I think it's like a small enough job that we're just going to get. Yeah.
My question's for Jeremy on the STR revenue. It looks like we're pretty big shortfall this year on what we projected from last year. Any comments on why is that? Like, what if you think we're not collecting everything we should be collecting, or we were just overzealous?
No, I think, well, there's a little bit of being I don't want to say overzealous because I don't think that's the word.
Sorry, that's the wrong. I agree. That wasn't I meant like overconfident,
Overly
optimistic.
optimistic.
Thank you.
Yeah, we didn't know how many short-term rentals we really had to license until we got into the program. And so I think initially we thought there were going to be a little more, but I will say that the program, it's a little wonky because the program starts January 1st is when you have to license every year. So it's not tied to the, so when we first started the program, we had revenue coming in for that budget year. But then our budget year ends June 30th. So it came in January 1st and doesn't count to that budget year. So we were a little wonky. So do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
It's like,
and so
it all works
by my calculation of that, we'll probably be like with 3 months left or so. We'll get closer than we are. We're at what, 98 now, and we'll get somewhere close.
Yeah.
As of today, we've collected about 102,000. These
Okay.
revenue numbers are from. the
All right, so
end
we
of
might get there.
January.
right.
Yeah, the year-to-dates
Might get there.
are from the end of January. So.
Yeah, it's just the programs run on the calendar year and our budget's on the budget year.
Yes, no, I was aware of that. I just was just extrapolating out, and I noticed the projection was less this year.
Right, and the projection is in line with what we have for short-term rentals licensed after the year of never having done it the year before.
Mark, go ahead.
Jeremy, I have a question. How accommodating have the short-term rental facilities been in terms of registering and being a part of the system? Do you have any idea?
Well, I think the compliance rate is upwards of like 90-some%.
Oh,
So
good. Okay.
I think that's pretty good. And I think generally, again, I think the majority of those people, I license them annually and they just do it as part of business because it's generally a business of some sort that they're operating, whether it be a more personal, residential one or a commercial one. They understand that that's what we have, the program we have. And we're going to aim for 100% compliance this year. We did change we adjusted the fee schedule, figured some things out with septic systems. So now there's some knowns and we've addressed some issues that people had with how the fee structure was. So we made it more balanced based on number of bedrooms this year rather than just a blanket fee. So I think it's more appropriate.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Next one, notice that paid parking was asked to be removed from our budget by the select board. Is that a one-time thing? Are we done with paid parking? What's that about?
So the program is still moving forward. And it was more of, there just seemed to be a lot of unknowns, and the parameters that were chosen for the program this year, it really didn't generate revenue to the level where I felt comfortable adding it into the budget as an offsetting revenue. And then there were some other parameters that are going to make it really difficult to estimate what the revenue can be. So for example, there was discussion about like a resident sticker, and that just makes it really, really difficult to understand what the revenue impact of that is going to be.
Got it. So we will be doing paid parking. We're just not going to project it into the budget.
For this year.
Got it. Okay, cool.
For this year. But I do think that this is something that the budget committee should give a recommendation about, because, if we're talking about, the sort of the level of revenue gap that we're looking at trying to fill this year. And then if we're projecting ahead to next year, we already know that, that's $550,000 to $650,000, give or take, of additional expenses in debt service that we're looking at. It's really going to be a major revenue source that, non-tax-based revenue source that could help offset the pain of that on property taxpayers. Municipalities are very limited in, non-tax-based revenue that we're able to collect and pursue. And paid parking has really been the only thing that has been sort of a significant revenue source in communities similar to Camden.
And so I think that's probably a good segue to our next recommendation.
Can I talk about paid parking?
Sure.
Yeah. You just take the mic.
Okay, sorry. I've been paying close attention to the parking thing since they first started studying this. And I've lived here for 42 years now. And this is not the first time we've gone around this road with even getting recommendations on what we should do for parking. And the last time before John Burke did his study, it was the same thing. Camden should have seasonal paid parking. And I know it's not popular. Everybody likes the way it is. Nobody likes change. But as Audra said, it's one of the few non-tax revenue, how do you say that?
Non-tax-based revenue.
Non-tax-based revenue that we can get. And lots of other communities just like ours have already instituted and been really successful. And so it's mostly paid for very largely by tourists. And most tourists don't care because they're doing it everywhere else. And it's inconvenient for people who live in the area. But it's 6 months. And, I think we've tried to make it as easy as possible by adding lots of 15 and 30-minute spots. And if you live here, you know where they are. And not starting it till 10 o'clock. Most towns start at 8 o'clock. So you can run into town and go to Walgreens, go to breakfast, go to Zoots, whatever, and spend time there. But But if we leave it most of the day when most of the tourists are here from 10 till dinner time, we would be making a lot of money. Can be easily bringing in $500,000 easily. And it'd be mostly on the backs of people who don't live here and are not paying property taxes. So everyone's trying to make it easier for people who are like complaining, but if it was 50 cents an hour, people would still be complaining. I mean, in most towns are $4 an hour. We're talking about $2 or $3 an hour. I mean, it's like, we should just tear off the Band-Aid and do it. And then see what we end up with. And then if we can always make adjustments, we can make it less next year's. But I think most people are gonna be like, wow, that wasn't so bad. That was pretty good. And they'll probably be happy with it. So, I mean, I'm not thrilled about having to have paid parking, but it's the only sensible thing. I'm not happy about having an 18% tax increase in my property tax bill either. And I don't think most people would be. It's one of the few options we have. We really have to think a little more serious about it. Too bad. I mean, people are just not going to be happy, but some people won't be. But I think most people will realize it's not that bad. And I've asked people in Bar Harbor, I've got several friends up there who had the same feelings about it, like they weren't happy about it, but once it happens, I said, not so bad. We like it. Friends in Portland. I mean, it's not terrible. And it's what most towns like ours should be doing. And Belfast looking at it. Rockland's doing it. Rockport's considering it. I mean, it's not going to be like it's for the only people doing this. So really, look at the things that Holly gave you.
So there's a citizen petition out now to put paid parking on the June ballot as select people here. Any comments on that? Do you think that's going to actually happen?
Isn't it a little late to get on the June ballot?
I don't know.
Isn't it a little late?
Although it's not late to get on the June ballot, because just like the budget piece will end up being on the ballot, there's a date for that we haven't yet hit. But there's also a restriction on maybe how binding that could be. It may, the lawyer could speak to it better than me, but essentially, though it's a warrant, it might be in a way we end up getting public opinion, and so then we know for sure. But as Audra has said before, it's under the purview of the select board whether there is paid parking or not. But this could be an opportunity, at least, to hear from the town. Just like we were surprised on the select board last year that people wanted to do the $300,000 groomer for the Snow Bowl. That was kind of a surprise, but it was overwhelming support. And maybe that'll be the same case with paid parking once it's on the ballot. At a minimum, it would give people at least a chance to voice it, and we could see where we stand. And on the other side, with the numbers that Audra had put in earlier, I can't remember which set finally lived in the budget, but they did do using mostly the parameters that we spoke about in the select board like 2 or 3 weeks ago. For the most part, that was what the test ran, and what that ran a couple of weeks last year, and it was roughly, I think, $20,000 for the couple of weeks. So maybe about $10,000 a week is probably at that rate. Then wouldn't it be? If we did 20,000 in 2 weeks, isn't that like $10,000 a week?
Unless you bump it up to $3 an hour.
Well, right,
you know.
but I'm saying with the
it was in it
Right.
was like the very end of the season.
right. So that's what I'm saying. It's like if you want to look at a minimalist conservative guess, since the parameters are very much like they were for that 2 weeks, and in late in the season, it begot about $10,000 or so a week. That might be a safe conservative revenue number to use.
My concern though is if we put that in and set an expectation from a budget perspective that there potentially is revenue, and then it does get petitioned to be put on the ballot out, to the public, and it is overwhelmingly no, we're now putting a budget forward that is including potential revenue that is not going to be, so I think there's a risk in putting a placeholder in when there is still this amount of uncertainty about
That's
what
true.
the go forward would be.
Okay.
So
I agree, and because putting a 0 here right now doesn't change whether we have paid parking or not this year, I motion to accept the town manager's tax budget line item here for non-tax revenues of $5,954,049.
Can we keep talking real quick, actually?
Okay, well, what is the correct number?
Yeah, I have 522,33749. Is that the more accurate number? 52, yes.
Yes, sure, that number. Here's why. Here's my logic.
Give us, go ahead.
These are baseboard revenue expectations. I don't see much point in we're not debating whether or not we're going to do these things. We're just looking at, and I think having because the deficit is so much right now, these aren't demonstrative changes that are going to be. So in the interest of time, I figure we just approve it and get to,
Well,
recommendations.
Actually, depending on how it shakes out, the parking could have demonstrable benefits. But I know we're not going to resolve that here. I get that.
Yeah. No, and that's all I'm saying. Is that,
But I would say, and I thought we agreed to this, that we were going to put forward a position coming from the budget committee. And I don't know if this is the time to draft that position or whether we want to go when we're looking at the revenue recommendations, when we're doing the summary.
I mean,
It's a tough one.
we've been wicking away at some of the questions that, specific to revenue, but in terms of the one, we
do you
can,
want me to run through just the 2 revenue recommendations right now? So that we've been, and then of course, please feedback if you haven't had a chance to look at these.
before you do this. Hold on.
There's a lot
of Yeah. Hold on. Yeah.
So is there something we need to close here?
Yes,
Put a
there
motion
is.
on the floor.
Yes, in fact, there is something we need to
But
close. here. I'm
there's
glad
still,
you asked.
I still have more discussion that I'd like to ask about revenues and things like that. So
Yeah,
Are
and you'll
we-
have but so there was a motion put on the floor.
why would we be motioning if there's still, because you wanted discussion?
Well,
Because it was
Get it. Got it.
put forward, because,
I know.
Well, I'll second it, but we'll have discussion.
yeah, so there is a second, so now we can open it for
Got
more
it.
discussion.
Okay. So I understand this is a parking question, and then I have another one to talk about after this. But the petition thing, going to the town, is that saying if they even just want to have paid parking, or what the amount would be? Because it seems if it's going to be paid parking, and we're asking the town, do you want to have paid parking or not? No, we don't. Well, then what are we going to do with all the money that we already spent on the kiosks? I think that's
Well, paid
as-
parking will have already started by the time the vote happens. But
right. So I'm like, why would we even be, as a town, why would we even be entertaining a petition when we've already spent the money on these, a lot of money on these things? And why would we not be increasing it to $3 an hour? Like putting it as a recommendation to be like, nope, it should be $3 an hour. It's pretty much $3 an hour across the board in every other coastal town.
or
that-
4.
Or 4, yeah. Sometimes more if you go overnight into a bigger city. I think it would be just a really bad idea if we put it to a petition. I just don't understand that.
We're
That
not
was
putting it to
my piece on that. The revenue here, and I'd like to have a discussion about it because it's very muddy to me. The yacht club miscellaneous revenue. It's my understanding that the yacht club is it's on their website. It's labeled as a private club. It's on town property, and they're only paying for leasing $29,400. They do a whole bunch of weddings and things like that. They're taking in more, and I don't know who pays the taxes on that property or whatever it may be, but it seems,
It's wrong.
yeah, it just seems really weird and strange that, number one, we wouldn't be upping their lease, especially since it's on town property. So
Can I ask
I'd
a
like to-
question about that?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the yacht club lease was a very long, like a 20-year lease or something like that, if I remember
And Mark, can
correctly.
you tell me, when was that voted on by taxpayers?
When was
When was that agreement voted on by taxpayers?
I think it was either in the early 2000s or the 90s.
No, it wasn't.
No?
I've lived here since 1980.
Well, no,
It
see,
was never
it was,
voted on.
no, you're
I
right.
just-
You're right, Barb. It was never voted on by the taxpayers. It was approved by the select board, so it's an unenforceable lease. That's what we've That's,
It's an unenforceable lease.
Yes.
Okay.
So my question is, it's a long-term lease. When is it up again?
well, it could be up at any time because it was never voted on. So it's not like a
Oh, okay.
real.
So we
yeah.
could raise the price, because I think Courtney's right about this one. It seems like a very small amount.
I just feel like they're getting kind of like a free
Especially
ride.
when especially when you start to bring in that they make revenue off of weddings and.
Totally. Well, and anytime, I remember anytime, Allison had brought it up at select board meetings where it's like they have this sign out front that says private property. It's not private property, it's town property. Anybody should be able to go down there and utilize any part of that space. The town owns it, but it's not, I don't know. It just seems very fishy and weird, and I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good.
They make a lot of money.
Yeah.
I believe that
$1,000 type of wedding there.
I believe that there is a deed of gift attached to the yacht club property.
But
It was given to us by Cyrus Curtis. And in that deed of gift, it says if it's not going to be used for a yacht club, it refers to the heirs.
But we're not saying it shouldn't be a yacht club. We're not saying that. But
She just mentioned that.
No, I'm just
I think
saying
the
the
question
lease
is
should
of
be more.
what the lease agreement
Lease,
is
it's-
in terms of.
it's really a low amount of money for harborfront property when they have a very lucrative situation going on here.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, they could pay more.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
I don't know what that looks like or, how that works with the lease, but
this would be like a great recommendation
Yeah, the
to
public-
roll into.
that's what I was
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be,
Doesn't have to be- yeah.
Courtney, were you adding more?
No, I was
Okay.
agreeing with what Marina said, where it's like, we can add this on to the recommendations of like with police department, with yacht club, with
Yeah.
paid parking. It can all go into that same thing. I'd even love to talk about short-term rentals, specifically commercial properties. Like, I think they're getting such a low fee. A commercial property can make $70,000 and they have to pay $1,000. Like, Jeremy's got his
Jeremy's
hand
hands up.
I agree.
raised.
I second that.
Sorry. Can I just jump in really quick I understand. I think if one thing's important to realize, first, maybe about the yacht club. If you want to do a recommendation, I get it. I've been working with the yacht club directors for a little while on some infrastructure things down there. And I think it's important to, if that's where you're going, I wouldn't include any change. I think a recommendation that the select board looks at it, because we would obviously need to have conversations with them as they move forward. Now, short-term rentals, there's a difference between permit fees and user fees. And I think it's important to constitutionally, you need to have our fees, permit fees aligned with what it costs to do the work of issuing a license, doing inspections and those kinds of things. User fees are different. They don't have that constitutional requirement in the state. So, and I'm just bringing up an example of a user fee would be, and I'm not bringing this up to make an issue out of what the fees are at all, but things like the harbor fees and usage fees of the infrastructure down there. Those are different than what it is than a permit fee. So I just want to caution you on trying to raise fees, permit fees really high, because constitutionally we can't do it. It technically needs to only cover the cost of doing the work. Is that helpful?
So there's permit fee and the other one was, I'm sorry,
User fees.
User fee.
So you're saying because
Things like
short-term.
harbor fees, like mooring fees and, those kinds of fees. Dinghy fees,
Which is classified as a user fee.
is a user fee.
Gotcha.
It's different than a permit fee or a license fee.
Are short-term rental fees, user fees or permit fees?
It's not a user fee, it's a permit, it's a license. They're getting a license to do something and they have to pay for the work that it costs to issue that license.
Okay.
That's same for a Vischler's license, which is the food license, or a lodging license is the same thing. And we are always the select board did just approve new fee schedule. We're always trying to make sure that's covering the cost of doing the work.
So
And they've been low for a long time. And that's why you've seen, if you didn't see the fee schedule, when the select board approved it, certain fees like lodging went from a certain dollar amount to a much higher percentage than it was the year before because of that, because they were just not paying for the cost of issuing that license.
So my recommendation, since we have a motion on the floor and it's 8:05, and we have agreed to have an additional meeting where we can revisit, go through the recommendations, is to call a vote on revenues and then make a determination if it passes or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, then we would come back to it next week.
I'll call the vote.
We can always come back to it. Yeah, okay. So all in favor of, I'm gonna have to get my glasses on. I'm putting it on for, so the motion had been put on for approving the revenues for $5,233,749. All in favor? 6, 7, and all opposed. 1, and I was going to abstain to give us till next week. Okay, so then it passes.
So I guess, so we can prepare better for next week.
Yeah.
What sort of information would help with a discussion about revenues and fees? I know we sent through some information this afternoon. I understand if everybody did not get a chance to look at it.
I think I'm going to just throw out there the approach I think we should take, and then everyone can correct me. We had coming into tonight just a consolidated from email feedback of just things that we wanted to address. We've done some of that. We did not go point by point, but my thought is everyone on the budget committee will look at that list and eyeball it and see, was there anything on there that we feel has not been addressed? Because I think the bigger focus next week will be on the more paragraph form recommendations that we can then clean up. I also asked the budget committee to look at those, give me feedback on, it doesn't have to be feedback right now, but between now and next week. So we can kind of make sure we've worked through the list of, I'm not calling them the one-offs, but I'll resend everything out as a fresh set. So that we can really start off next week with those recommendations, and then look to potentially and then revisit the actual vote itself. So in preparation, that answered none of your questions, Audra. So, go, because my brain,
We need revised public works budget.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think.
I'd like
I'm going to do the debt, the conversion of the short-term debt into the bond.
Projection out for like a few years, if
Mhm.
possible.
Yep.
Have a sense of what that looks like.
Yeah, is the fire department's capital $1 million building in the budget right now?
last year.
Last year.
Something on, if you have it, the history of the lease with the
Yes.
Yacht Club.
Yeah, I can do that.
The only maybe, or the only loader, the only vehicle question I have are they going to be new to us, or are we trying to buy new ones? Are there new to us vehicles that would be available?
New to the world.
I know, right. So
Yeah.
my question is, are there any new to us options that would bring any of those costs down? Yeah. Used. Okay.
Yeah.
I like new to us because that's like it's still bright and shiny. But
I'll ask Dave can look around. and
yeah,
See if there's.
I would just ask that question.
Do we ever answer the question of what the deal was with Montessori? Is that?
Oh, the Montessori lease?
Expense and revenue or?
So it's just a revenue now, just their agreement with the town is $20,000 a year.
Can I say something real quick? It's
Sure.
going to be just easier for me to say it right now. So when Chris and I were talking about the paving portion of Park Street, that actually will have to come out of my operational budget. And it will lower my paving budget to do what I said I was going to do. But it still increases my paving budget by about $50,000. I just wanted to say it now. I was preparing my spreadsheet, getting ready to give it to Jody so we can make the adjustments. And I had that number in there and I was double counting it, so to speak. So just want to get that off the,
Okay.
off my chest so that I don't have to re-explain it when we go over it during the adjustment phase.
Anything else, just more broadly? Go ahead.
Just had a quick- So as of right now, it seems like the budget really hasn't changed at all, and we're still sitting at an 18% increase.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Well, once Dave backs those projects out, it'll be,
4 or 5% less.
so it'll be like
Over the
Be
whole,
about 13% instead of 18.
but that's just on the public works, or that's the overall
Whole
total?
thing.
overall.
The number was 18 something. It'll
Mhm.
be like 13 or 14 now. So we're closer. We need to find a couple 100,000
Right.
more.
Right,
That'll be-
and some of, one of the, two of the big reasons too that go to the increase amount, and I don't know if in your head you can kind of back this one out too, where we had before like $1.5 million of surplus revenue that we were able to use. We're not able to use that this year.
Right.
So that's
what compounds it.
that compounds.
That's
the
10% right
difference.
there.
That's that's 10%, right?
Yep.
So that can be a reasoning.
That's why the
in your head,
revenue.
We have to
where
put
that
that,
makes
we
a
have to
difference.
put that out
Conversations
there.
become so important of how to generate revenue because we can't cut our way out of this.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, there's also, I think Audra did a really good job of preparing for it, but two of the big savings that she was looking at, number one is the paid parking, which we're not going to include. And number two is keeping the police department, which is going to be,
Right.
that was, part of the budget. And the town made it pretty clear that they want the police department.
Not really.
No,
people
some loud
who speak
people
loudly on social media.
they slowed the process down, and that's fine, but the
Well,
town has
if
not
there's,
spoken.
if there's a vote on it, we'll find out. But
Let's go.
I'm just making a point that,
Yeah. And again, so the first, right, so we don't know what the number our starting number, we were like, fantastic, let's dive right in. So we're looking at what we thought potentially could be a 3%. And again, as it's played out, the difference we're trying to meet, again, we didn't start from a place of, with some of the bigger initiatives not proceeding in the very time that we're doing our budget process. So again, I think we're holding ourselves to a number that, again, we haven't added to it to bring it up to
Well,
18.
I think it's really important to keep in mind that even before the discussion that we had tonight, there was a net decrease of 12% in the expense budget. So everybody did a lot of work to cut expenses from this
Yeah.
current financial year to the budget year that we're talking about, including everybody in this room. So, I think that it's really the revenue side of the budget that is driving the cost increases or the overall
And I would
tax
like
rate
to take
impact.
just a moment and look at that, because in the past, how did you come with that 1.2 million? There was surplus and.
Yeah, it's the surplus was what,
So in the past.
1.3 and then 150 and whatever reserve withdrawal.
We drew it down.
Right. So in the past, and it's somewhere in these 6 documents I have open, that is noted that was not a prudent thing to do in the past, was to draw down, which is how we came close to balancing our budget over the last year or two. It was not a prudent thing to do. And now we're being walloped because we did that in the past.
Yeah, you
But-
see it in your sheet in FY 25 and 26. And maybe you could give a real quick explanation about how that was found out in the audit and what the rules.
There's
about that.
no found out. This was a deliberate choice that was made year after year to use surplus to, instead of, the idea was to buffer the impact on taxpayers. But when you do that, you're always creating, first of all, you're relying on savings from prior financial years to fund your current financial year, which is never, a sustainable thing to do long-term, because you never know, things change. And, we had a few post-pandemic years where we had, really, we were adding a lot back into surplus every year. We were really collecting much more revenue than we had anticipated. And we added a lot to our surplus. Like, it was way above and beyond, the fund balance policy, what we had in there. And so we were able to do that, but that was going to come to an end at some point, and this is the year that it's come to an end.
So there still is a surplus what's the downside then of being imprudent again, I guess I would say, to prevent, to blunt using your expression, to blunt the
impact.
The impact, yes, the hit we're going to take this year.
I would say I am going to aggressively lobby to not use surplus this year at all, because it is so important to keep that fund balance healthy and at policy level. And if we aggressively use it, or we continue to use it at all, we could come under the level of our fund balance policy.
And I'm
So-
just gonna,
It's the fund level policy is what I was thinking was the trigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
We haven't-
Does our bond rating take a hit? I mean, what?
Yes, we could take, not a huge hit because we're not under it, but if we go under it, if we go under it substantially, it could make us, we have a really good rating now, and it could have an impact, so.
Mark, go ahead.
Not
and
to
I-
mention,
oh,
you
go ahead.
just, you need that money in case something happens.
I can speak to that directly. The county has not hit their recommended auditors fund for a number of years, which I discovered when I got there. In this past year, we have a historical building at the courthouse, and there are major leaks in the courthouse, and the county did not have the funds to fix it. We had to put tarps up and stuff like that
Yeah.
until we can get to the new budget season. It's there for emergencies, and emergencies happen.
Yeah.
And you can't just use it irresponsibly, because then it can cause big problems in the
Yeah.
future.
I mean, as a budget committee, we did not start with a 3% budget, decide to add in 17 more sidewalks, paint every building purple, and come back with an 18% increase. So I'm saying that because it is still our duty and fiscal responsibility to scrutinize and figure out what we can do with what we've been presented with. And I feel like for the first time, really put forward recommendations going into next year. But I just think it's, we are a really good case study for how, everything was shifting in process. And again, that 3% number, I don't know if it was ever going to be attainable unless there was an appetite.
It was never going to be, because their costs are going up so much higher. But I do think that, the model that Matt has built for us, it's just going to be an incredible tool for being able to just, we do our best kind of budgeting on like a year-to-year basis. And, we have capital plans and programs that go out well beyond one budget cycle, but it's really difficult, with a budget committee that has, a lot to do in that 1 year to think of the next few years coming down. And I think with the model that Matt built and integrating that more into, the annual budget process, we're going to be able to, look at things like use of surplus or, non-tax-based revenue, and have a better understanding of, how that can supplement some of these things. So,
And
I think we're in a
asked
much.
Matt for next week to just do a few slides presentation so that we can all have a formal, we've been beta testing. Could I
Yes.
say that? This
Yes.
has been our beta.
Put it-
We've been having a beta testing year of having the summaries and briefings for these meetings. And so next week, I asked Matt to just do a few slides to kind of formally introduce all of us to what the model is, how it came about, what's been feeding it. I've been asking a lot of questions about the data controls and blah, 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 blah. So I think that will also just be a really great way to kind of get acclimated with that, get the public a chance to have and select board a chance to also be acclimated, and then build that into to how some of the recommendations have come forward. And I'm going to adjourn us unless anybody disagrees, because it's 8:20. Okay.
I have one question.
Oh, yeah. If you turn your mic on, you can ask me.
After the meeting.
Oh, after.
Are you saying that maybe we should paint all our buildings purple?
I mean, my younger daughter would say purple is a great color.
There's some serious
It's good for light reflection and